Module 4, problem number 8. In a clinical trial, 30 out of 800 patients taking a prescription drug complained of flu-like symptoms. Suppose that it is known that 2.5% of patients taking competing drugs complain of flu-like symptoms. Is there sufficient evidence to conclude that more than 2.5% of this drug's users experience flu-like symptoms as a side effect of at the alpha equals 0.1 level of significance? What are the null and alternative hypotheses? So let's start. First of all, you always know that your null hypothesis is that your proportion is equal to some value. That's always, so that right there is easy. In this case, we're comparing it to a 2.5% that we were given from some previous competing drug company. So we know that it's 0.025. And what we want to test right here, is there sufficient evidence to conclude that more than 2.5% of this drug's users experience flu-like symptoms? So we know then that we're testing to see if it's greater than that 2.5%. So let's check our answer. Fantastic. Use technology to find the p-value. So let's go ahead and open up StatCrunch. Now, remember, we're dealing with the population proportion, so we're going to go to Stat, Proportion Stats, one sample, and with summary. We do not have a data set, we only have the summary statistics. So here, remember, that 2.5%, that's the statistic we're testing. That's our test statistic. That's that 0.025. This 30 out of 800, that's our sample data. So we're saying we're going to use this small sample to test against this 2.5 to make a conclusion about a larger population. So in this case, our number of successes is going to be 30. Again, that's from here. That's our sample data. And the number of observations, the total number in our sample is 800. Our hypothesis, null hypothesis, was equal to 0.025. And the alternative was greater than 0.025. We click compute, and we get a p-value of 0.0118. Here it says round to 3 decimals, so that's going to be 0.012. Check answer. Nice work. Now choose the correct answer below. So first of all we need to do is just simply look. Here our p-value is 0.01. Our alpha is 0.1. We know then that our p-value is less than our alpha. So we can already say we're only looking at B and C. Remember, if p-value is less than alpha, we reject the null hypothesis. So that already gets rid of this one because this says do not reject. So since the p-value is less than alpha, reject the null hypothesis and conclude that there is sufficient evidence that more than 2.5% of the users experience flu-like symptoms. So let's click that. Check answer. Excellent. So if you have any questions about that, remember the whole idea of hypothesis testing is that we're taking a small sample, testing it against something, either a hypothesis from a previous study, from a guess, like if we are trying to find out if it's less than, greater than a certain amount, or not equal to a certain amount if we're doing a two-tailed test. And then we just use that p-value with our alpha. If the p-value is less than alpha, then we reject the null hypothesis. If you have any questions about that, let me know.